Welcome to the James Skrmetta Show. Thank you for joining me here on our podcast, our video cast, however you want to say it. We are in the middle of my chair. I gotta get some WD-40 or something for this chair. The squeaking drives me absolutely crazy. Great chair, love the chair, but man, the squeaking. So we'll do some house cleaning first before the show, and we have a lot of stuff to talk about today. We're gonna talk about a Alabama bride who accidentally whoopsie-poopsie joined ISIS and wants to come back, and America said no. We'll talk about Zion Williamson's injury and what it means for college basketball. Should players be getting paid? Should they not be getting paid? Should they have to go to college? We'll talk about that whole thing. We also are going to talk about Chris Hemsworth playing Hulk Hogan in a new movie. Thor. Probably not as big as Hulk Hogan, but I'm a little biased. But thank you for joining me. I'm going to talk about a few different things that we have going on here. First of all, I have totally redone the studio. So if this sounds echoey or sounds different or looks different or whatever, that's why. The studio was in a bit of disarray, and we've moved it around to better facilitate what we want to do. Better facilitate kind of where we want to go moving forward. And so the mic is at a different place than it usually is, and the screens are in a different place. And I haven't hung any of the acoustic foam. I'm a few adhesive strips away from doing that. I could have done that tonight. Instead, I chose to do a podcast. So a lot of cool stuff happening. We'll finally have space for guests, to have guests on the show, and the background may change depending on how it looks. We'll have a separate background, an actual background. So we're a few steps away, but it's exciting. We're really close. We're really, really close. And the carpet's vacuumed. Also, two projects that have happened this week that I want to talk about. So the first project was, I watched the Netflix show You. Everyone watched You for like 2 weeks, right? 10 episodes, easy to binge, cookie cutter story, kind of easy to follow story, enjoyable. I liked it. After I watched You, I kind of fell into a show hole, and I kind of fell into one of those where I didn't have a show to watch. I was like, man, I just want to get into something. Should I start The Sopranos? What should I watch? And my sister had told me about a show called Lucifer that she was watching, and I'd never heard of the show. And one weekend I was just home, and I said, you know what, I'll watch an episode, whatever. She's got good taste, and especially in shows and stuff like that. So I started watching it. I loved it. What a show. Cannot recommend it enough. It's about the devil who comes to Los Angeles to like reinvent himself, kind of. He's a nightclub owner, and he's played by Tom Ellis, a fantastic British actor. And he teams up with this detective, and they kind of form like a Bones kind of thing, where it's like a rom-com-y, good cop, bad cop, opposite attract kind of deal. And they have a cast of characters, and they solve a murder every episode, and the character storylines are fantastic. So I watched that entire series, 3 seasons on Netflix. It got canceled. It was originally a Fox show. It got canceled, and Netflix picked it up for a 4th season, which will start, I think, in April. So spring. So a good time to watch it. But anyway, so Monday, I just had a wild creative hair and wrote a spec script for the show. Wrote a 55-page spec script for an episode, a hypothetical episode for the show. And I did it, and it was just it was weird, man. It was weird because it wasn't hard. It was hard to do it. I wrote it, I started Monday morning at about 10 a.m., 11 a.m., something like that, and totally finished at like noon the next day, something like that, so maybe 24, 25 hours. And to write 55 pages of script was easier than I thought. I just enjoyed the story that I had crafted, and I think just like reading or anything, if the story's good enough and you enjoy it enough, then it's easy to breeze through it. So I wrote 55 pages, a 55-page spec script for a future episode. And when I finished, I was just like, what the hell do I do with this now? What do I do? What the hell do I do with this script? It's not like, it wasn't like a screenplay for a movie or something where I could just have it and shop it. It was just like a one-off episode for a series that was already in production. And so, I tweeted out to a few of their writers and stuff, just to someone could look at it, and just so it wasn't collecting dust on my desktop, And I put it on the Lucifer Reddit, and everyone has a Reddit now, and Reddit is a great place for stuff like this. So I put it on the Reddit, and so now I just want to put it out there, I guess. So there's a link to it below. It's a PDF. And the link should just pull up the PDF. So if you want to read it, or if you're interested in it or whatever, check it out. Tell me what you think. I would highly recommend watching the show, or at least a few episodes of the show, to know who the characters are, what they sound like, what they look like, kind of their relationships to each other. And before you read the actual script, the script is hypothetically like 4 seasons into the show. So I would watch a few episodes. But if you have watched Lucifer at all, then I highly recommend checking it out and let me know what you think. So that was Monday and Tuesday. So then on Wednesday, I've been, man, I hope the audio is good. I feel like I'm really far away from this mic. But I guess we'll see in a little bit. But also, I've been teasing this a little bit. The Oscars are this Sunday, and they do not have a host. First time in Oscars history, there's no host. So I decided to do the monologue and to kind of suspend some belief and record me doing the monologue as if I was hosting the Oscars this year. And it was a really fun project. It was interesting. It was fun. I enjoyed it. It took a lot to do. And we'll talk about the process and stuff next week. But that will drop Oscars night. So look for that video probably 7 p.m.-ish, 6 p.m.-ish Central Standard Time. And, you never know with the whirlwind of social media if something like that will get picked up, or, what it can do. Some of the videos on this channel have blown up, exploded with events like the ESPYs and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens with there, but it was a really, really fun thing to do. Next week, I'll probably live stream a read through of the script if there's some interest on Reddit or whatever, and we'll talk about the process, and we'll kind of we'll read it and talk about the decisions throughout and all that. And then we'll also have a night where we watch the Oscars monologue, and we'll talk about the process there as well, of how we did the video, how we wrote it, why we did it the way we did it, stuff like that. Just kind of a behind the scenes look. And we are going to start live streaming. Like right now, I'm filming, but I could be live streaming. So I kind of want to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So we'll have to do that after we set up the rest of the studio. So that will probably come next week, late next week, something like that. But be on the lookout for that kind of information, and I will, of course, keep you all in the loop. So that's the house cleaning. Thank you very much for the support. The support for the past couple weeks has been fantastic. And I'm proud of the content that we're pumping out, and it seems like it's being reciprocated pretty well. And, I'm just letting it rip. I'm on a wave right now, I guess. I'm just kind of creatively letting it go. I'm just relentlessly pushing this stuff out. And before, we kind of held back, and we didn't put everything out there, and we just kind of did it to do it. Now we are letting it rip and see what the hell happens. And bottom line is we're making really, really dope content. I don't know anyone else on the planet, to be honest, who could write a 55-page script for a TV show in 24 hours, and then the next day do a 10-minute Oscars monologue, and then the next day do, a podcast after already previously doing a podcast. Like, we're just blowing it out. Everything's flowing. So thank you very much for all the kind words, the texts, the likes, the shares, all that stuff. I really do appreciate it. All right, so let's get into the show, shall we? Let's get into the show. So the first story hits kind of close to home, down here in the South. An Alabama woman joined ISIS a few years ago. Whoops. You talk about sometimes, sometimes people just end up on the wrong side of history. They just bet on the wrong team. They just back the wrong person, this is one of those times where you just back the wrong team. You just pick the wrong side, bottom line. Not a big deal. It happens. But really bad look. So I'm trying to figure out when she did it. I don't know. We'll find out in the story, I guess. But she joined ISIS. Like, she joined ISIS in 2016 or something like that. So she went to Syria, joined in 2014. Here we go. In 2014, her name is Hoda Muthana. In 2014, Miss Muthana, then a 20-year-old student in Alabama, traveled to Turkey, hiding her plans from her family. She told them she was heading to a university event. In fact, she was smuggled into Syria, where she met up with the Islamic State and began urging attacks in the West. Now, she says that she's deeply sorry and she wants to come back. She's had enough. Enough of the Middle East. ISIS isn't cool anymore. And Trump and everybody is saying, no, you can't come back. You made your bed, now you gotta lay in it. Now, she also has been married 3 times to ISIS fighters. 2 of them were killed, and the 3rd one she is divorced. So, it's hard to find love nowadays. Never has been so true. You got to read some of these things. So, or I guess I will read them. After joining ISIS, she witnessed executions and urged others to join the group in social media posts that were critical of the United States. But that's a little vague. That's still just a little vague to me. Should we hold that against her, really? Like, that didn't sound that bad, right? Well, let's check a tweet of hers. Here's just one of her tweets. Now, remember, she wants to come back to America. She's had enough of ISIS time. Wants to come on back. Why not? Let's check out one of her tweets. Quote, "Americans, wake up. Men and women all together. You have much to do while you live under our greatest enemy. Enough of your sleeping. Go on drive-bys and spill all of their blood. Or rent a big truck and drive all of them over. Veterans, Patriots, Memorial, etc. Day. Kill them." When you're banging out that tweet, when you're ripping through that tweet right there, and you're like all capsing, rent a big truck and drive all of them over, kill them, you pretty much just kind of went all in. You pushed all the chips in the middle of the table. The table's made of sand, in this example. You pushed all your chips into the table, and you can't take them back. If the dealer has blackjack, you can't turn around and be like, oops, tired of playing blackjack. Can I have my chips back? Sorry about that time I said to burn you and kill you with a big truck. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. So they pretty much have barred her from America. And even though she was born here, lived in Alabama, and it doesn't get more American than living in Alabama, I can tell you that much. She's from, I think, Hackensack, is that what it's saying? But this is such a crazy situation. It's crazy that it's even gotten to this point, because you would think ISIS would have just killed her. They would have just eliminated her the second she tried to do this, or something would have happened to her. You wouldn't think this could reach like a national story of her basically trying to reinvent the movie Sweet Home Alabama mixed with Zero Dark 30. Zero Dark Sweet Home Alabama. How's it even gotten to this level? But so a lot of people are somehow torn on this. Somehow torn on if she should come back to the country. And to me, it's a bit of an easy situation, No, I don't think she should come back to the country. I think that it's worked out pretty well for everyone. She kind of chose what she wanted to do, especially with these tweets, especially with seeing executions and the atrocities of ISIS. To just waltz on back on over here is crazy. Is totally crazy. People get arrested, people get in serious trouble for just talking about joining the Islamic State over here. She actually went to ISIS summer camp, got married 3 times, witnessed executions. That tweet alone of go on drive-by, spill all of their blood, rent a big truck, and drive all of them over. That tweet alone is enough to get you arrested. So the fact that she did God knows what over there, sorry, but you just can't happen. Let's go to the next story. And again, that one, do I feel bad for her? Not really. You know, it's just like these people who go in school shootings, or, you know, is it sad? Yes, but they made that decision. You know, she believed so firmly in anti-America. She believed so firmly in ISIS and the Islamic State that she left Alabama. It's not like she was in New York and she just jumped on a plane. She left Alabama. She went from Alabama, like the ISIS recruiting map, I can only imagine Alabama is not very prominent. She leaves Alabama and secretly goes to Syria and gets recruited by ISIS. And she's just letting it rip on social media. So, I mean, like I said, this is her doing, and now she's got to kind of deal with it. But so last night was Duke and North Carolina, huge game. I was on North Carolina plus 10.5. Obviously, little betting tip. Little betting tip for you guys. Duke is really, really good. I would highly advise you to not bet on Duke the rest of the season. And not because of the Zion injury. Duke is going to be incredibly expensive. I don't want to get on a gambling tirade here. But Duke is going to be incredibly expensive for the rest of the year. So you're paying way overpriced to bet on Duke. And yeah, they may win the national championship, but I guarantee you they do not do well against the spread the rest of the way. Guaranteed. So if you want to bet on Duke, like last night, I can't name a single player on North Carolina. Couldn't name a single player. But Tuesday, I had made up my mind that I was betting on North Carolina. And I was going to wait until tip to bet. Why? Because all the public, all the schmucks that were betting the 10 minutes before tip, blindly betting on Duke, just more value for me. So if you want to bet on Duke, you better have a damn good reason to not bet on the other team. Because Duke could not be more public right now. So if you watch college basketball, if you're getting into gambling, I know it's becoming legal in a lot of places. It's illegal where I am. Don't bet on Duke unless you have a ironclad, lock-tight reason. There's a little free wisdom from me. So Zion gets hurt in a few seconds into the game. This Godzilla of a human being pivots and steps, and literally blows his shoe out. Full on just shoe explosion. His foot comes through the shoe. Okay? And it causes him to slip. He hurts his knee. He has a grade 1 sprain in his knee. And he couldn't return to the game. Duke loses by 10. Or loses by, I don't know what they lost by, but they lost by a lot. And so, of course, today is shining a pretty heavy light on college athletics and the idea of playing and the idea of these supernatural talents, which Zion definitely is. Should they play? Should they have to play? Why would he play? What's his reason to play? You know, what's his reasoning? And I think people have this kind of mixed up. So I am here to fix it for you. First of all, let's start with Nike. The first thing people did was say Nike is screwed. You know, he was wearing a Nike shoe. An awful look for Nike overall. I can't believe it. Nike's stock's going to drop. Nike's going to plummet. We're talking about Nike, okay? We're talking about Nike here. You think that people are going to go to these stores, they're going to go to Champ Sports and Foot Locker and not buy Nike because Zion Williamson, human Bowser, ripped a shoe? I don't think it's going to happen. The stock did drop today, but it's just classic, you know, knee-jerk reaction, next day kind of thing. It'll be fine. Nike will be fine. So if you're one of the people that believe that Nike is going to be really negatively impacted in the long run because of this one isolated moment, then you must be new to the podcast, because most people who listen to this podcast are, high level right here. Common sense on a million. So the Nike thing is ridiculous. Nike will, it is, of course, in the moment, it's a bad look. Zion holding a shoe that looks like a firecracker went off inside of it that has a big check on it. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. It's a bad look. But I think they'll be okay. Now, as far as college athletes, let's go into this. Let's go into this. So my take on the NBA, and the NBA is different than other sports. I don't think any high school kid is good enough or should be allowed to go straight to the NFL. I don't think it should be a thing. I think they should have to go to football or college. It's just the nature of the game. Football is way too physical. There's just a huge difference between the best player in high school and the worst player in the NFL. It is an enormous difference. And I have never in my life seen a player who I can confidently say would play in the NFL at a high level straight out of high school. Never. Basketball is a little different. Basketball is already so young and already kind of experimented with high school straight to the NBA. And some players can do it because at the end of the day, basketball is the same. They're shooting, the same. They're doing the same thing. It's not as physical as the NFL. So I think that, and baseball is the same way, right? Baseball, you're doing the same thing. A 96-mile-an-hour pitch from a high school kid or a pro is going the same speed. If you can hit it, if a high school kid can hit 96 with a 350 batting average, if he can do that in high school, he's going to be able to hit 96 in the pros. Now, of course, it's a little different, but you get what I'm saying. Baseball's not a physical sport. Basketball is not as physical as the NBA. So I think basketball should have some separate rules. Basketball, or the NBA, directly affects college basketball, which is that's where we get into this really gray area. This really gray area where the players, think about when college basketball was the best in your mind. And you're going to say it was around the times of the big Duke teams, J.J. Redick, or the big North Carolina teams, where you knew every player. Nowadays, and big games felt like big games because you knew all the players. And rivalries existed because the players had played with each other the year before. They built these storylines. College basketball was basically a professional league where you had stars, you had colorful teams, you had colorful storylines, and it fed all throughout the season. Nowadays, I can't name, it's 2 weeks from March, and I can't name probably 15 college basketball players. I probably can't get to 10. I probably couldn't get to 10 college basketball players. I know I can't. That's insane. I can still tell you the starting 5 on both teams when North Carolina played Illinois in the national championship. College basketball just changed. And why did it change? It changed because of the one and done is why it changed. Because when players got into the college and they got a year under their belt, they just hauled ass. They just went to the NBA. And why wouldn't you, right? So what did that do? That caused huge turnaround. Oh, you're a fan of college basketball? Well, all of those players that you watched last year, all of those teams that you watched and you understood how they played and you're ready to see them again, all those players are gone. So here are a batch of new players that's going to take you a few months to learn. And then once you learn those players, they're gone. That's what happened. The Kentucky kind of one and done starting 5 freshmen kind of thing, that happened. And once that really took off, then we saw college basketball devolve from what it once was. March Madness brackets are virtually just flipping coins because no one knows these teams, no one knows these players. Yeah, maybe you're super high up, super high level, people who are paid to watch the game or follow the game. But it just doesn't happen anymore. I remember in high school staying up late because I knew Gonzaga was playing, or staying up because, oh my God, Georgetown's playing Syracuse. This is going to be a war. Last year they went to 3 overtimes. These players hate each other. That doesn't happen anymore. So it's hard to be like, yeah, just let them go straight from the NBA or straight from high school, because then you do rob college basketball of players like Zion, players that are immense talents and are good for the sport. But you can't rob the players of the opportunity to make millions and millions of dollars. Zion got an ankle sprain or a knee sprain. But let's just hypothetically say Zion shattered his leg, shredded his ligaments, tore at anything and everything, and never walked again. He cost himself potentially hundreds of millions of dollars, at least, at the bare minimum, millions of dollars, by playing at Duke. So it's hard because not all of these kids are from well-off families, and they're looking back home at their parents living in a one-bedroom house, working their asses off, not paying their bills, fighting foreclosures. That happens in just the normal world, especially with all of these kids. So these kids are looking at their family going, man, damn it. It's really hard for me to care about Duke versus whoever, Virginia Tech, when I could be in the big league sending home $250,000 checks like it's nothing. And that's a real thing. That's real life. So we have to balance. So here's the riddle. We have to balance giving the players opportunity when it's available. We also have to balance collegiate sports and their marketability as a business, and also what's good for the NBA. So I think it's pretty simple. I think it's a pretty simple deal. What you do is you do exactly what baseball does. You tell the players out of high school, you can go to the pros. You can go straight from high school to the pros. You can do it. If you get drafted, you're a pro. Good deal. If you go to college, you have to go to college for a minimum set a number, 3 years. Just saying that on this podcast right here, just quickly. That's the two options, right? You have get drafted, go straight to the NBA if you're good enough. If you're Zion, if you're LeBron James, whatever. If you're a guy who is like, Zion would be a top 20 player in the NBA this year. That's how good he is. So the fact that he's even toying around with college is kind of ridiculous. Especially when injuries do happen. Freak stuff does happen. We've seen it. How many times have we seen a player come down and fracture their tibia, and it's all over Twitter, and their tibia is hanging out of the front of their leg? It's disgusting. And even if he does make a career comeback, it's a year ripped from him, a year worth of paychecks, a year worth of endorsements, a year of his life, a year of his God-given talent. So I think that balances it perfectly, where one, you get the players, you give them the possibility, you give them that chance. If they're that good, they should be allowed to go. In no other walk of life would you tell someone who's incredibly good at their craft, hey man, you have to go do it for free over here before you can come and do it here. Nowhere else would do that. So if you allow the really, really good players to go to the NBA, check, we have solved the, giving them a chance and not squashing their potential. Now college. Players that go to college have to be there for 3 years. How does that help college? It helps college because the players are now known. Teams have very low rollover, so fans get used to the players. People on TV get used to the players. The stories are built. The product is better because the teams are playing with each other for longer. Those players are developing. Check. How does it help the NBA? Helps the NBA because the good players can go straight to the pros. It also helps the NBA because the players who are getting drafted from college have been in college for 3 years. So it allows them to see these players much longer. It allows them to see a bigger sample size of these players. And it allows the players to be developed in college by college-level coaches before they go to the NBA. So it checks off that box as well. I don't understand why the NBA has implemented the one and done rule. It seems to benefit no one. Because even the players who do go, you've only seen them for a year. And some of them, they don't play every game or they have a good half of the year. So you're talking like a 15, 20 game sample size that you're talking about drafting a player and paying him millions of dollars to try and figure out what the hell is going on. So it hurts the draft. It hurts the NBA product. Whereas I think you get a much deeper draft if you have players who have been playing at a college level for 3 years. A mediocre or an above average college player playing at Duke for 3 years and then getting drafted is such a better option for the NBA and that player than him trying to go, 1 year at Duke, he's above average, and then try and go to the pros. Because why wouldn't you? And I get the argument of these are competitors, these guys are hungry, these guys want to win, these guys want titles, these guys have camaraderie. I feel all that. I really do. But it's hard for me to believe that a player at Duke, we'll say Cam Reddish, is going to go, you know what, man? I love Duke. I love the white and blue. I want to beat North Carolina every year. I'm turning down $10 million to play here at Duke. I just don't think that's a thing. I guess some players could be like that, but I got a feeling that the majority probably aren't like that. So that's how I would fix it. Now, the question is, should college players get paid? This is the other part of the question. I think there should be something. I think that the way they should do it is if your likeness is used, like when Johnny Manziel was at Texas A&M, the number 2 jerseys, that's his likeness. It doesn't say Manziel, it has the number, but they're Johnny Manziel jerseys, right? So I think he should be getting a cut of those jerseys. And I know they get stipends and they get scholarships and whatever, but the business side of college athletics now is at such an insane level. When you look at Alabama football. Alabama football is basically an NFL program. Nick Saban's getting paid, $9 million a year? He's getting paid an insane amount of money because they know how serious it is. They know how real the business side of athletics are. Texas A&M built a new stadium basically with Johnny Manziel. It's the house that Johnny built because of their marketability, the money they were raking in from TV deals and his games and bowl games, merch sales, season tickets, selling out every game. It's just a huge business. And when you combine the one and done thing, then the joke of, oh, well, they're getting an education, that's way out the window. Oh, they're getting a $1,000 stipend. Yeah, well, I think Johnny Manziel is selling more than $1,000 worth of jerseys. And is it unfair that you can buy a jersey, a Zion jersey, but it just doesn't say Williamson, and he doesn't see any of the profit? I think that is unfair, especially when you compare it with the coaches and the money that's being made from these players. Just like the NCAA football game. Those were them in the game. Yeah, it didn't say their names, but we're not blind to this, So I think the players, I don't think they should get a salary. I don't think they should get like a contract, but I think they should, if those players are at the level where they are marketing and they are selling their likeness in different ways, whether it's jerseys or shirts or whatever, just come straight out in the open with it. And they should make a cut of that. They should make a cut of those sales, and it wouldn't be something insane, but it would be something to, I guess, give them an incentive to be them and to play and to win and to do good. Great players and players at that level deserve to be compensated, bottom line. I think getting into contracts and stuff is super dangerous, but my idea would be give them their stipends, give them their scholarships, same as you do now, but also toss in, if they are pushing merch, if they're pushing whatever, whether it's a percentage of the season tickets, I don't care, then they should get some money. So that's the Zion thing. That took a lot longer than I thought it would. We really went in on that one. It's already about the 35-minute mark. So we'll go ahead and we'll do one more story real quick, and then we'll cut this thing. So Chris Hemsworth has been tipped to play Hulk Hogan in a biopic directed by Todd Phillips. So Hulk, this is going to be about his rise to superstardom. It's not going to be post-wrestling. It's not going to be the weird, where Hulk kind of got into some weird stuff there. But it's going to be just how big Hulk Hogan was. And if you've been listening to the show for a while, then you know that I'm a huge wrestling fan. An absolutely huge wrestling fan. Always have been, always will be. And I just want to talk a little bit about Hulk Hogan, I guess. And this is going to be, first of all, Chris Hemsworth, you better get big. You better get freakishly big, son. All right? Hogan, I mean, you're talking about the 24-inch pythons. You can't have Chris Hemsworth, A.K.A. Skinny Thor, walking around looking all chiseled and ripped. I need him to be beefy AF. I need him to be 280 at the minimum. I mean, I'm talking thick. He better be looking like a bag of mashed potatoes with hair. Just thick. The Michelin Man with a Fu Manchu. All right? Hogan, though, man, you talk about a crazy story. I mean, Hulk Hogan was... He kind of is like how The Rock is now, where he transcended wrestling. And back then it was a little different. Back then there probably wasn't an avenue for him to be like The Rock, you know. But The Rock could be president one day. I would not be surprised at all if The Rock ended up being president. And Hogan kind of had that same power, where he had cartoons about him. He was in music videos. He was in movies. He was everywhere. He was past wrestling. Even people who aren't wrestling fans know Hulk Hogan, and they know exactly what Hulk Hogan does, and they know he's the red and yellow. They know Hulkamania. They know the Super American, the Real American theme song. They know Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan is so past wrestling. It's so much further than just wrestling. So I'm really excited for this movie and to see how Chris Hemsworth handles being Hulk Hogan, because it's not easy to step from being, this mythological Thor, where you can kind of play around with the part and kind of bring your own personality into it. Chris Hemsworth is going to have to ramp his personality and his charisma level to a whole other level to reach Hulk Hogan status, to be able to be that character. I mean, Hulk Hogan was a cartoon character come to life that then became a cartoon character again, He was a whole different kind of human being. A whole different kind of human. So, very interested to see. I'm also interested to see, they're going to have to cast other wrestlers. Because if you're going to talk about Hulk Hogan's rise to fame, you have to talk about the Macho Man Randy Savage. You have to talk about Andre the Giant. So now you've got to not only cast, or they already have cast, but you have to not only get Hulk Hogan right, but you have to get the Macho Man right. You have to get Andre right. So this is a huge undertaking, and I'm interested to see how it pans out. You can't have the Hulk Hogan story without the Iron Sheiks and the Macho Mans and the Andre the Giants and people who were huge in his career, and who they're going to pick to get to play those parts. Because, you're playing very specific parts, like Macho Man. You have to look like Macho Man. You have to sound like Macho Man. You have to walk like Macho Man. You have to talk like Macho Man. And I know these are actors, but this is acting, I feel, to a whole... It's like actingception, right? You're acting like an actor, basically, is what a wrestler is. You're acting like an actor who they are acting like someone else. Because, Hulk Hogan isn't Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan is a different human acting like Hulk Hogan. So Chris Hemsworth is acting like Hulk Hogan, who is being acted by the man who is Hulk Hogan. So Chris Hemsworth is acting like three different people. Actingception. I just blew my own mind. But I'm pumped for it, guys. So we're going to end the show there. The show went long, 40 minutes, something like that. Thank you for sticking with me if you had this entire way. Enjoy your weekend, guys. Remember all the projects I told you. The Oscars one is coming up first, Sunday night. I'm really, really excited for y'all to see this. And I'll be putting the finishing touches on it later this week, getting it in the can, getting it all ready. I am thrilled to see what y'all think about it. So be on the lookout for that Sunday night, guys. Enjoy your weekend. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. We will be back with podcast episodes next week. I will see you. This has been the James Skrmetta Show.